exciting episode of Amazing Amazon on Captain TV coming from the Lagos city. Hope you enjoyed the last episode. Yes, today promises to be great as usual. So welcome on board. I am Tosin Adeyemi. Yes, today we'll be talking about something crucial, which is parenting. Yes, parenting. What are the hurdles to parenting, how to overcome, especially parenting in this 21st century. Yes, it might be draining at times, but let's talk about the solutions to it, how we can overcome, how we can actually skate through. Yeah, so today I'll be talking with a parental coach, also a child care coach who has been in this parenting line for decades now. So she'll be sharing her experience with us and how to scale through the hurdles of parenting. So join me as I meet my guests. All right, welcome to the interview segment. Just like I told you on the introduction part, that my guest for today is someone you love to meet and you want to hear her talk, because when it comes to experience, please, you need to give it to her. So my guest for today is no other person but Mrs. Omotunde Adelagun. She's a parenting, childcare counselor, name it childcare, parenting, motherhood, and so on like that. So nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure meeting you too.
And you look really fabulous.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right, let's begin with the name Mommy Totland. How did you come about the name? Why do people call you Mommy Totland?
Thank you very much. Yes, Mommy Totland came about when I started my creche.
Okay.
And because I was one of the first private creche owners in Lagos. And basically, many people didn't know my real name, so they just attached me as Mommy Totland. The name related to me as a person more than my real name. Even in fact, many people didn't even know my name. They didn't know my real name. It was just Mommy Totland all the way, right up to today. And some of them even just call me Totland.
Like it's your name, is there anyhow your name is associated with anything called Totland or is school
Thank
or
you
a name or
very
something?
much. Yeah, my creche, my daycare creche is actually called Totland.
Okay.
It's actually called Totland.
Okay.
Yes.
Now you celebrated your birthday a few weeks back.
Yeah. Well, basically, it's about a week and a half ago. Yes.
A week and I forgot. Okay. Now, looking back, what are you mostly grateful for? 60 years.
60 years is a big number. And I am actually grateful for God giving me life. And through that life, I have walked a very long walk. A good 60 years walk of living, a walk of working, the walk of teaching, the walk of caring, the walk of loving, the walk of being an active person in community, which had a lot of impact in the immediate communities that I lived. To the extent that I also attained the status of a vice chairman of our CDA. And to me, all are very symbolic achievements. Because one, when you walk the walk of life, you pass through different stages. And the walk of life, like I said initially, the first one I walked was when I was born, and my travels, my junior life, my teenage life, right up to my adult life. And I found it very, very interesting because, you see, God is the architect of everybody's life. And the way He so created my life, it was in a very funny way. in the sense that I was born here in Lagos, Nigeria, Island Maternity. And I could say I am one of the independence children in the sense that I was born in the 60s. And then in that early life, at the age of 5, I found myself in the United Kingdom at the age of 5. And I was one of those Nigerian children who actually boarded the British Overseas Airways Corporation flight. And I went independently at age 5 to meet my parents on that BOAC flight, which is now British Airways. And I had a carer on that flight, and that was one of the stewardesses. And I think that was where my life was highly symbolic and really relates to care. The stewardess was very, very caring. She took, for those hours on the flight.
Yeah.
I can't remember me, even though I was 5 years old, I couldn't remember any kind of fear. I didn't entertain any kind of fear, right up to when she handed me over to my parents at Heathrow Airport. It was highly symbolic. And then the next stage in that, my junior life, was that I was now left with nannies.
Okay.
So I have been in the caring, how would I call it, environment all my life. That people have cared for me. They've shown me love, especially my parents. And, it has actually gone a full cycle that I am now returning the care that I received. And that is why it's very important that the foundation of everybody's life should be perfect, solid, and good, and full of love. Because if you bring up a child with a lot of love and care, attention, and well provided for, that child will grow up to be that kind of person and return it, in kind, either to her own children or to the people around her. Because I believe that it's love that makes the world go round.
Sure.
And love needs to be established right from the foundation of every child's life. And that is one of the things I see that is missing in the Nigerian environment, which we need to actually enforce and say, please, let's start showing love. When there's love, everything falls in place.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's basically my junior life. My teenage life, that was school, from secondary school up to tertiary institution. And I thank God that I excelled and I was able to, work with my professional qualifications. And then middle life, I got married, started having my own children, whom I really care and love very much. In everybody's life, there are trials and, tribulations.
They'll set in at a point in time.
Yes, there are times when you're faced with all kinds of issues of life, health issues.
Yeah.
I will tell you that I have scaled through a lot of health issues.
All right, ma'am.
And I'm a survivor.
Yeah. I would like us to also talk about that. But before you move further, you said something that actually caught my attention, that the environment you find yourself, the environment you find yourself in while growing up will affect you one way or the other.
Yes.
And you said you grew up in an environment where they showed you love, care, and
yes.
And this is what you actually, that has been growing up with you, and you are now giving back.
Giving back to society.
So now, looking at this present dispensation, we are still going back to your story.
Yes.
Looking at the children that we have now, some are actually going through some situations that they themselves cannot even define how they came about that attitude. We hear stories of molestations, people who molest younger ones,
Yes.
and all of that. How did they come up with such attitude? So, with what you just said, we need to take a check back to their foundation. That how did they grow up? What environment? Which environment? Even their families. So now you say you had an interesting childhood.
Yes.
At any point, did you experience any form of maybe challenges, maybe a stage where you were depressed, like you felt like quitting, like giving up on your dreams or what you're pursuing?
Yes. Yes. Like everybody, there are some times in your life, life is never a bed of roses.
Sure.
Never. There are different stages. Like we always say, there's the morning, the afternoon, and the evening of the human person. And in all those stages, there could be some very serious challenges that person can face. It's not secluded to the old age only. Even in your early life, you can experience a lot of dangers as you walk the walk of life. And, well, dangers of being ill-treated, the dangers of being molested, like you rightly said, and also the dangers of not being heard. And again, sometimes we find out that ignorance has a lot to play with all these things we're seeing in the world today. Why I'm saying that is that if the parents of children had knowledge that could relate to understanding the children, knowledge that could relate to actually communicating with their children, knowledge that could actually help them give their children the right kind of information, what they need at certain times of their lives that will not allow them to make mistakes. That is missing in society. And it's not really the fault of some parents. It's because they're just as ignorant as others. And that is why we have programs like yours, the Amazon, that is used to enlighten people as to how to raise children.
Right from 21st century.
Right from birth. The foundation of it is love. If there's no love, you can never relate to somebody you don't love.
Exactly.
The second aspect of it is communication. If you don't establish a good relationship with the child, to be able to talk to your child and the child to talk to you, the child listens to you and you also listen to the child. If you don't have that relationship, you cannot communicate information, and that child cannot, in return, communicate information to you. So if there's something wrong with the child, whether at home, in the community, or at school, that child will not be able to give you that information.
Yes, of course.
And that's where things start to go wrong. So when those things start to go wrong, the child starts to derail. And if you're the sort of parent that is very tough and too strict, the child will be too scared to communicate with you. And when there's something going wrong in that child's life, that parent will never know.
Exactly. Especially parents who don't give their children attention.
Yes, yes. You know, some people will say, oh, parents are very busy.
Yeah, busy with work,
one thing or the other.
Yeah.
But there are times, you know, there should be that mommy and child time whereby, you know, you can actually tell each other things. That time must be created. You know, you must find time for that, so that anything that's bothering the child, you will know. Anything you want to tell the child about growing up, how to live in society, is very, very important. That there must be good and effective communication between mother or parent and child.
Thank you so much for that. I know you've been privileged to counsel lots of parents, and from your experience, what do you think is affecting this 21st century parenting?
Thank you very much. Like I said, ignorance is one. Somebody who doesn't know how to deal with certain matters will not even deal with it. You understand? Or deal with it the wrong way. So there should be what we call social parenting classes.
Social
Parenting classes. We have a lot of parenting counselors, guidance and counseling. Parents too need it. Children also need it. But if the parents are taught, how to, taught how to bring up their children, in the right way, it will be easier for them to communicate with their children. You understand? So if the parent is an ignorant parent, there's a lot of information in books. There are loads of parenting books that the parents can relate with. Also on social media, there's a lot of parenting information that parents can find out and use it to help themselves. And then the fear of God. The fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. When a parent is a godly parent, that parent can actually teach the child the godly way. And once the child knows that you must know your left from your right, and what is good and what is bad, that child will not go to the left when he knows he's supposed to go to the right. And what is good, the child will continue to do what is good instead of even trying to do what is bad. So it's very important that the guidance and counseling aspect of parenting is very important. And when that child has access to the parents, the child will go to the parent for anything. It's not just a case of, Mom, I want to drink something, I want to eat something, I want a lollipop. It's, Mom, if somebody comes to me and tells me to do this, shall I do it? Or somebody has actually come to me and asked me to do this, would you allow me to do it? Is it right to do it? So you must teach your children, don't take any step unless that child has communicated with you. Children must let the parent know what is going on in their life. There is what we call peer pressure.
Yes.
Now, there's peer pressure coming in from the community, from the school, even from the church environment. Yeah, so there's a lot of peer pressure everywhere that can mislead the child. But if the parent said, okay, if anybody do come to you for something like anything, it's like saying, if anybody gives you something to eat, first of all, take permission from your parent before you eat it. And somebody wants to give you something, tell them that, oh, I have to tell my mother about it first. You understand? So that, that child will know that you don't just take things from anybody. Because it could mislead you. Because when you start taking things from people, that child will start relating with that person more than necessary. And it could lead to other things. And that's temptation.
Thank you so much. I like the fact that you made emphasis on this modern style of parenting. And you made mention of social parenting. Social parenting. Now, we also need to talk about social media parenting and the normal parenting.
Yes.
Now, because gone are those days when I don't know if it's still in existence, that spare the rod, spoil the child. Now, if you beat a child, it's child abuse. And now, back then, while you were growing up, you were being beaten, being disciplined if you do something wrong.
That's
But right
right.
now, to beat a child now is kind of child abuse.
Yes.
So how do you want to train up a child without using the rod? We're
Thank
going to
you
get
very much.
answers to that.
Thank you.
But we'll go on a short break now. We'll be back. All right, welcome back. And back to the conversation. Now, spare the rod, spoil the child. Do you think the rod should be used on a 21st century child or not?
Or not. Thank you very much. As we've all known, the rod, okay, or the cane, or what we call corporal punishment, has been put to the test over decades. And as from our experience and my personal experience, sometimes it doesn't work. And apart from that, it inflicts a lot of pain and sometimes wounds on the body of the child that's been caned. So that is why it has been tagged as child abuse. Apart from the fact that some people overdo it. They overdo it, they don't know when to stop. When they start, yes, when they start caning the child, they don't know when to stop. And in the process, a lot of physical damage on the child's body and also mental damage, takes its toll on that child, which now leads to depression. And when it leads to depression, again, it leads to a fallout between the parents and the child. It leads to a fallout that the child will now live in fear, and unhappiness. In the schools too, especially in the African environment, they do a lot of caning.
Yeah. But not in all schools, especially private schools.
No, some private schools do it. It leads to, a level of abuse against children in school environments, especially the public schools. I've actually been in, I entered a public school one day. Even this morning, I'm being very sincere. This morning, we were driving past, we passed a public school. The teacher, or what was it, the gate man, yes, followed the children, about 6 students from the secondary public school, followed them onto the pavement of the road and was caning those children outside the school premises. And I was amazed. I said, what could lead to this? Even if you want to correct the children, tell them to go home. Tell them to go home. And he was actually beating them on the road. So what I'm trying to say is, people use the cane or the rod. They use it because they are ignorant, number one. They don't know what to do. So they look for the easiest way out.
To correct the child.
Anything, some people, anything they see, they pick it and they throw it at the child in annoyance. And if the parent is a highly temperamental parent, that parent is just going to do anything. Anything he sees or she sees, they're going to throw it at the child. Yes, our foundation is, yes, we were being caned as children. And we related that, okay, yes, because it's what we saw our parents doing, and we thought it was right, and we also tried to do it. But along the line, we now discovered that some children even develop thick skin against the cane.
Exactly.
And they are even ready, especially the boys, they're even ready to receive the cane. When they say, I'm going to cane them, they put up their hands. They're ready to receive it. You understand? And after receiving the cane, some of them don't even cry anymore. And and it's like, they didn't really have an effect. So the missing link is still that of communication. Before any child does anything wrong, that means the child has not been led in the right way. Children are children. They're highly ignorant. They're just coming into the world. They're just knowing the world. They're going to make mistakes. But if the parents are there to guide them and counsel them, they will avoid those mistakes. They will, they will not even go to where those mistakes are, and they won't make any of those mistakes. So that's, I'm still saying, it's still the foundation. Right from when that child is a baby, there has to be a good relationship between the parent and the child, and also there should be a continual training process between the parents and the child. Don't do this. Please, if you see anything, let me know. Alert me. Be wise. Remember how to be godly, good, godly children. Remember, teach them that you must fear God, because if you do anything wrong in the society, there's consequences for it. If you do anything wrong to somebody, that person will not like you anymore. So you should avoid, offending people or doing something wrong at all. Knowing your right from your wrong, and the good and the bad.
There are some children that were actually taught the right way, the godly way, but later they try to deviate from it. So if you're trying to correct a child, just like you said that using the rod might not be the best approach.
It's not.
It's not the best approach. So when a child does something wrong, how is the best way to correct the child?
Thank you very much.
Even after you have trained the child the right way,
yes.
and he or she knows the right way,
yes.
and not doing it.
Yes. Basically, you have to keep on talking.
Keep talking.
It has to be. The dialogue never stops. Even in politics, even in business, even in the church, they preach and preach and preach the word. You just continue talking. You have to keep on talking, hitting the points. You have to keep on hitting that point. That if you do this, this is what it will lead to. And if you do that, this is what it will lead to. And if you want to have the good things of life, you do it in the right way that will lead you to the good things of life. That at the end of the day will make you a fulfilled and happy person. So the talking never stops. You must continue to talk.
Keep talking.
And if you have established that relationship with that child right from the beginning, and you're talking and keep on talking to that child, the child, he or she, will come to you and be talking to you. And that is where you find out more about that child or what that child has experienced in society. And you yourself as a parent will also let the child know certain things that personally as a parent you want from that child, and also that what will also benefit that child in the future. So basically it is dialogue, it's talking, communication. Communication also can be in form of audiovisual for little children. There's so many early learning visual aids, videos, audio recordings that you can be playing to those children, and they're learning from it. They're actually hearing, and understanding certain things, even before they even meet those things along the road of the walk of life.
Yeah. But looking at some parents, because time is one thing that is kind of affecting, is a factor affecting the right way of parenting, because you see the mother go to work very early in the morning, comes back
very
at
late.
night, then the father also. So the time for communication, just like you said, that communication, keep talking and talking. Some parents, because of the nature of their job, they do not have time to do this talking and talking. So how can we, what advice do you have for such parents?
Thank you very much. Like in everybody's life, there has to be a plan. There has to be a daily, weekly, and monthly plan. Okay, God himself has planned the life of human beings, created the world on the first day, right up to the seventh day. And it said on the seventh day, man must rest.
Yeah.
Okay, so God has also planned it. As a parent, you can't say you don't have time for your child. You must create that time.
Parents and both.
As a
Both
parent,
father and mother.
as a parent, you know, as a parent, you could be a single parent and be a man. You could be a single parent and be a woman. But as a parent, if even the two of you cannot, like your mother and father living under the same roof, you can't have time to come together one day and sit with your children. At least one of you must be able to do that, you know, and communicate with the children. So that plan of relationship, you must find time for it. If we have time to go to the salon and do our hair, which we women, for example, spend about 2 hours, we should be able to find that 1 hour in a week. And in that 1 hour, it will surprise you, the information that will be given, both from the child to the parent and from the parent to the child. So anything that's bothering that child will tell you. If there's bullying in the school, the child will tell you. My grandchildren, I devote 1 day a week. Every week. I was with them because they're twins. I was with them for, I would say, a good 3-4 years. You know, 100%. And then when they now grew, they started school, then I just made sure I went there 1 day in a week. And in that 1 day in the week, the information the two of them communicate with me is wonderful. And the answers that I give them just makes them happy, gives them peace of mind. If there's anything going wrong, they let me know, in the school especially. Oh, they say, oh, grandma, there's this boy. He has curly hair. He's always kicking people. He's always kicking people. That is communication. And then I ask, I say, did you report that child to the teacher? They'll say yes. Did the teacher punish the child? They'll say yes. You understand? But when the complaint of that particular child kept on coming up more and more, then I communicated with their mother and I said, look, get in touch with the school about this particular child that's bullying the children. You know, the child, you will bully them in the school bus, bully them in this classroom. So that communication is very important. You understand? So, like I said, you just have to keep on talking.
Keep talking. Okay. We have some parents who do not really have time based on the nature of their job. So they took their children to granny, to grandma to take care of. But there's this general perception that children who grow up with grannies, they don't really get trained, they get sports, they'll call them in Yoruba, they say they are baje, one baje, and a grandma, as a grandma, any child that a granny trains, like, they get sport. The grandmas will not want to beat the grandchildren. So this will not make them become not having the right training.
Sport children, you mean?
Yes. So do you think that's...
Well, I'm quite a typical example.
Okay.
Because when my parents went to the United Kingdom, that was 1962 and 63, I was left with my great-grandmother. I was left with my great-grandmother. My grandmother died when my father was 7 years old. So, when my parents were now going abroad, they had to leave me with my great-grandmother. My great-grandmother was still alive. So I was with her those first 5 years before I went to the United Kingdom. And she was a very loving old woman. I wasn't the only grandchild with her.
Okay.
Some of my other aunties, they were living with her, with their children, you know, so. But she was a very loving, caring old woman. May her soul continue to rest in peace, amen. And I would tell you, those 5 years, I didn't even know I had a mother. I didn't know I had a father. I didn't know anything. They never told me anything. I didn't know anything. I just knew that those dresses kept on coming from the United Kingdom. Those beautiful dresses, the birthday dresses, the Christmas dresses, they were coming in. I was being dressed up. I didn't know anything.
And you didn't ask?
I didn't know that. I didn't know anything. They didn't tell me anything. When I got to Heathrow, I was surprised when the stewardess was handing me over to some people.
Okay, so
it was when I now got to UK.
Okay.
Then I started knowing them. So the first 5 years, my mother was my great-grandmother. I wasn't spoiled. The first 5 years, I was in an environment that, I was fed well, taken care of, and, I had other children to play with.
And so you were not lacking anything at all?
Yes, so. I was an only child for 13 years.
Wow.
So even when I got to United Kingdom, they didn't have any other children after me until I was 13.
Okay.
But I had other mothers too. My other mothers were my nannies, the white women that looked after me. I had many mothers.
All right. Okay. So let's talk about, because I love to ask this question each time bring about this topic, parenting. There is this Yoruba adage that I'm going to say in English that the good child belongs to the father and the bad ones
becomes to the mother.
Now, I want to understand whose responsibility is it when it comes to training a child? Both parents cannot be available. Yes. Whose responsibility is it? Because I believe parenting should be a collective responsibility.
Yes.
We both gave birth to this child,
yeah.
so we shouldn't leave the child somewhere.
Yeah.
So why the Yoruba adage, the good child is the father, is to the father, then the bad one to the mother? Why?
Yes, because women have always been relegated to the background. Women have never been recognized in the African society. But they know that a woman was their own mother. A woman is their sister. And a woman is their wife. So that accusation relates to women because in most cases, the children are more with the women than the men. By our maternal instincts, we are trained by the Almighty God to care. We're caregivers by nature. Right from the womb, when the child is in the woman's womb, we start to care for that child. Right up to, even we never stop until we leave the world.
Exactly.
We are mothers forever and ever.
So it's just the responsibility of the mothers.
Now, it's not just the responsibility of the mother.
Okay.
Both parents have a role to play in bringing up the child. But like I said, the children are more with the mother than they are with the father. So most of that caring and attention is given by the mother. In percentage, we're talking about 80% to 20%. Yes, the father's probably, maybe weekends, you see the child will see the father, and any activity that happens in the house, whether they go out, that's when the child can actually relate with the father. Okay. But especially for the women who are not working, the full-time housewives, you find out that apart from the school days, the children are more with the mother than with the father, which is 80% to 20%. Now, for the working modern woman, especially a full-time working mother, you find out that 80% attention has been reduced drastically.
Yeah.
It has been reduced to something like probably 30 to 40% that the mother now has, especially when she's a working mother. But there is a way that a mother can still continue to give that love and attention to that child in her absence. And like I said, make adequate provision for your children so that when you're not around, they still fall in line. Buy them the right kind of books. Buy them the right kind of toys. Yes? Give them a kind of homework plan, apart from the school homework, some activity that they'll be doing when you're not around, so that they're living a more fulfilled life, but at the same time, they are learning, they are gaining, they are achieving. You understand? For example, if you teach a child to paint, to be an artist, that child will learn to be a professional artist. And in your absence, that child will produce beautiful pictures while you're not around. That's keeping the child busy. Then again, if you teach the child the godly way, you tell the child, listen to godly music. Yes, you can also listen to other social kind of music, which is okay. And you can also teach your child nursery rhymes, all kinds of music that will keep the mind of the child busy in your absence. So the use of the radio, the use of the musical tapes, audio-visual tapes, what would they call it? The telephone. All these things have all these things inbuilt. Like, I introduced the piano to my grandchildren. And on YouTube, there are piano lessons.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, I just, bought the little pianos, the little organs, bought it for them. And they had little training, teaching scripts, music, notes, guides and all that. And they started practicing. And when they achieved that age, when they could use the social media, the YouTube, they themselves were going into YouTube to bring out the music lessons themselves. And they were actually teaching themselves, especially one of them, that's Amber. Amber can play so many musical notes, all on her own. She actually trained herself through YouTube. Even in the arts world, my other granddaughter, Ruby, she's so gifted with creative arts. And she goes into those spheres, inside the social media. And she's creating all kinds of patterns and designs and, mixing of colors. So there are ways you can keep a child busy that when mommy is not around, the child might not feel the mother very much, but the child is full of activity. So when mom comes, then mom should now give them that time and space for them to show love.
Okay, thank you. Now, talking about that social media, internet, because I'll say, like some people say that technology has affected parenting, it has affected a lot of children. Not as much as social media, internet has a lot of benefits. It also has its own disadvantages. Because I'll say some of these learnings you made mention of piano lesson, there's some trainings you get online, which I think is beneficial. But looking at the other side of it, looking at what is going on social media, internet, looking at, there are some musical videos that you yourself as an adult, you should not watch. But it's there on the internet. If these children have access to this content, don't you think it will affect the training they've been having while growing up?
Definitely. That is why we have parental control. Any parent that's going to give a child, a social media device must apply the parental control device on it to block away all the bad negative vices that exist on social media. It's there. The people who created the social media, they knew that society will experience this, that it's going to come, it's going to happen, and it's happening. But like I said, ignorance has a lot to play in parenting. Everybody has a phone. Everybody has a phone. I want a phone. It becomes a fashion. It's the fashion of the day. Fine. Everybody is on social media. I want a touch screen. But the one we're talking about is the contents of the social media. How can you block it off? Once upon a time, it was just the, what they call it, the caskets, the audio, video discs, the discs and the tapes that children had access to. And you could just select what you wanted the child to watch and keep the others locked in your room. But now, like you said, it's all over the social media, which through the parental control device, these things can be blocked out. And if you know that you have a very wise child who can penetrate the system and get access to certain things.
The children we have now, they are just computer children.
Yes.
Like 3 years can operate a phone.
Yes. So what I'm saying is, if you have a child who is very wise and clever, who can, penetrate anything and get the information she wants on that social media.
Unlock the parental control.
So then another level of control is, when do you have access to your phone? Okay? I would say the telephone is a security gadget. It's not just a media gadget. It's a security gadget. It's important that there must be a telephone in the house, especially for parents who work full-time. You need to communicate with your children. If anything is happening to them, they can get in touch with you. And you can also get in touch with them. So you have more peace of mind when you're miles away at work. So it is a security gadget. So there are different levels of telephone, again. So if you know you don't want your child exposed to all this dangerous social media information, then you just give them the basic phone. That's, just have some decent music recorded in it, and the child is good to go,
All right, thank you so much for your time on the show. Before we wrap up, what will be your advice to parents watching?
Well, I'm a parent myself. I'm also a grandparent. I'm talking from experience. Parenting is not an easy assignment. It's an assignment given to parents by God. Once you conceive a child, you have started becoming a parent. When the child is in your womb, you are still taking care of that child until you have delivered that child into the world. That means that even in pregnancy, you must eat well. Don't smoke. Don't drink alcohol. Don't do things that could endanger the fetus and the life of that child. When the child has come into the world, we also need to be very, very protective of that child, because that child is a gift from God. And we know, and you know what it took you to get that child. That child is like an egg that must not drop, because if it drops, that's the end of it. So you need to be very careful, highly protective. You also need to show a lot of love. Learn to understand how to look after children. If you don't understand, speak to the right people. And be careful that you don't damage the heart of your child. If you damage the heart of your child, that child, will become depressed and very unhappy. So, children are very tender. I will advise that we take care of our children with tender, loving care. All the children of the world need tender, loving care. They are the future of tomorrow. Show them love. Love is what makes the world go round.
Thank you so much for that piece of advice, and parents. It's a privilege to have you on the show.
It's a pleasure being on your show.
Yes. We've heard it from our guest for today. So we now have the understanding that parenting in this 21st century is quite different from what we used to know. Yeah, for fathers and mothers. So we need to adopt the modern method. You don't need to use the rod. You need to just have a conversation, communicate, talk to your child.
Dialogue.
Yes, dialogue. So important. So this is what I'll be going home with. I don't know what you will be going home with. Dialogue with your child. You don't need to beat the child, okay? All right, so take a short break now. When we come back, we'll wrap up. Interesting conversation with Mrs. Omotunde, giving us strategies and tips on how to overcome parenting hurdles in this 21st century. Yes, and I hope that you have learned one or two things. So this is where we wrap up today's episode of Amazing Amazon. So till I come your way again next time, I remain Tosin Adeyemi. Bye for now.